be able to fit in another talk, inshallah. In my view, it's not appropriate to speak of these people as just messengers. This term is normally applied to people who are just entrusted with carrying messages to and fro. The Anbiya, and especially the Rusul, who bring the new Rosales, revelations are far more than that. Allah Ta'ala knows best. Their function is more like, in a way, that of an ambassador who's called upon to represent the country and its government with distinction, with clarity, and astuteness and diplomatic skill. Allah Most High has chosen as his envoys men of perfect character and intellect from first to last. In Alqueria there's a number of attributes that are essential in the Prophet ﷺ, and other ones that cannot be attributed, such as ugliness or lying and so on. As mentioned in the previous talk in this series, Maulana speaks of the Anbiya as being angelic by nature because of their purity. Their intellects having entirely subjugated their egos. As you know, it doesn't mean no struggle. Doesn't mean no struggle. You think about, say, the Musa alayhi salam got carried away and killed somebody, not from intention, but they are immune, we believe, from any ill intention. They just can make mistakes. This is from in the discourses talking about kind of what is their mission in general terms in relation to human being, the rest of humanity. When you desire to go somewhere, you want to go somewhere, your heart goes first and sees the place, spies out, finds out what it's like, and then returns and takes the body there. People are all bodies in relation to the saints and the prophets who are the world's heart. First they emerge from their human frames, flesh and skin, and they travel to the other world. The prophets, spiritually speaking, are travellers to the other world. They observe both the other world and this world, high and low, traversing many leagues till they find out how to get there. Then they return and summon mankind, saying, "Come to the real world, the original world. This world here is a ruin, it's a transitory abode, and we've found an agreeable spot and we've come to tell you about it. Come and join us." So who are the first and the last among these human exemplars? Is related from our Prophet ﷺ, the first entity created by God was my light. The first created, the purpose of it all, is the last to appear in this world. And it's been said that everything else is just preparation for his arrival. On the face of it, prototype of human perfection was Adam, the first prophet to manifest on earth. In reality, the last was the first. And he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told his companions, "I was a prophet, but Adam was between water and clay." And as you know, Allah is reported to have said to the Prophet, "But for you, I would not have created the heavens." In the seventh of his majalis, Majalis al-Sab'a, Maulana speaks, puts into the mouth of the Prophet, as it were, a description of the meaning of his being a Nabi al-Ummi, one of the important characteristics, that he was directly educated by his Creator himself, not that he'd gone to a school or a madrasa or university or anything of the kind. It begins with a bait or couplet from Sanai's Hadithat al-Haqiqa, the enclosed garden of truth. He says, "Anyone who's alive can know that which has been. He knows what shall be. He's something else." "O Muhammad, you were illiterate. You were an orphan. You had no father or mother to take you to school, to teach you writing or any other skill. From where did you learn all these thousands of branches of knowledge and learning? And yet, you narrated from his volume," that is from the book of God's infinite knowledge, "step by step, all that has come into the world from the very beginning of existence onwards. You told of that eternal happiness or misery that he bestows. You described the garden of paradise tree by tree, the earrings of the Hurra'inna Huris, every corner and pit of hell. You taught about the end of the world, the everlasting life hereafter. But where did you learn all this? Which school did you go to?" He replied, "Since I was an orphan and I had nobody, the teacher was that one who befriends those who have nobody else. He taught me, and Ar-Rahman wa'allama al-Qur'an, the all-compassionate, as who taught the Quran. Had I had to learn it from mortals, I couldn't have done so in 100 years or in 1,000. And even if I had, that would have been acquired imitative knowledge, this taqlidi knowledge, the keys of which are not in the hand of the knower, so that it is locked up rather than inculcated. That is the outer form, not the reality or the spirit of true knowledge. Part of the blessing conferred upon the Ummah of Islam is the fact not only did the Khatam al-Rusul, the seal of the prophets, exemplify how to live all facets of our lives, he also had disciples, noble companions, who recorded all his words and actions, and this you all know is the blessed prophetic sunnah, preserved faithfully down to the present day to complement the perfectly preserved scripture. In one of the majalis, Maulana explains, speaking for the Prophet ﷺ, how the sunnah represents, explaining how the sunnah represents the safe path for humanity to tread to salvation. And this is to do with the root meaning in Arabic of the word sunnah, actually. Now, this is my sunnah, so that when my followers, friends take a wrong path and set foot in the thorny land of disobedience, they receive scratch marks from the thorns, so they will not go stubbornly running into that thorny place again. The quarrelling is inauspicious. Verses, we have opened the rose garden's gate for you. How long, barefooted one, will you head for the thorn land? He who looks for a quarrel in everything that happens will be crushed by the turning of fate's 7 mills. Fate's 7 mills, actually, should explain that the 7 revolving spheres are said to symbolically bring good or ill fortune. So sometimes they're talking of these wheels that grind round and round and squish us down until we're happy and lucky enough to escape from all this, these vicissitudes of fortune. Once they've experienced scratching from the thorns, they know they've taken the wrong path, landed in the thorn land. This is partly to do with the good fortune of the believer, that they learn from the mistakes. They're not subject to istidraj, of being led along to think they're okay in a complacent state. Then they look ahead and behind and they see the waymarks along the road. For along this path that had no directions or people as helpers, I put signs and directions in the air. In this desert place I brought sticks and placed stones together, in order that travellers may look for these signs, not become confused in this desert, so that they may look for my footprints, which are called the sunnah. It's just like when a hunter follows the tracks of prey, they go running after their quarry, following marks in the snow. As they pass through the snow of disobedience, they come upon the tracks of true guidance. Then they follow my way, turning the reins away from the thorn brakes of misguidance. Thus they come upon the garden of divine acceptance. And so they come to being among the companions, the fellow revellers and bosom friends of the noble beauties, the shuhada, the martyrs, whose companionship and rejoicing is everlasting, and the kings whose kingdoms are forever. Quotation, those shall be with the ones whom God has blessed, the prophets, the Siddiqun, supremely sincere saints, the martyrs and the righteous. What am I saying? Rather, they shall have superiority over that foremost martyrs, for his shall be the reward of 100,000 martyrs. These are people who are truthful and steadfast in the face of trials and adversities. This is a figurative mubalagha, a rhetorical exaggeration to say, you have tremendous reward for being for sabr, for steadfastness in obedience to Allah despite the difficulties. Important part of the prophetic model, as you know, and his own source of pride, as he said, was that he chose to live a simple life, in fact a life of real poverty. These lines from Divan. Poverty is pride, said God's envoy. For this reason, that chosen one is champion swimmer, king of the swims. The boat which he possessed, he kept for ordinary people too. When you dismount for a pedestrian, that is generosity. Let somebody else have a ride. But deceitful villains are many, being expert on boats, because this world's business is all sorcery and spells. This world is like amber, and it steals all the chaff. wheat that has grain with it is not disturbed by amber. So, world is like amber. It means this is kaharaba, this is electricity, the power that magnetizes little fragments of stuff. And so the world attracts people who are the hamaj, if you like. They're people who are just the ordinary hoi polloi. But the wheat has grain within it, and it's the same like if you have people, human beings with real substance, are not disturbed by amber. The world doesn't have that strong attraction. Everyone who makes his voyage in the vessel of the Prophet is both at rest and moving, and the Prophet's fellow traveller. So by the barakah, by the protection, even when they're not moving, as long as they're facing in the right direction, i.e. the intention of obedience, ittiba', expression we'll see something later, is the Prophet's fellow traveller. He's, even when he's not moving, he's not physically moving, still he's making progress with his intention. You've gone much into bread, go into water too. Once you've journeyed over water, heaven will be your carpet. Thus you will become exalted, rising stage after stage. The loftiness of rank is different from outward loftiness. Don't expect it's going to be giving you prestige or something like that. Being closer to God is something else. Despite its length, this journey can be completed in an instant. This garden is not far off, when divine contentment is your guide. One of the potential barriers on the spiritual path is to consider that your goal is far away, which is correct about our condition perhaps, but not correct as regards the one who's closer to you than the humble warid, a jugular vein, and who's wishing you success or putting you to trial is on our side. We can't pass on from consideration of the Khatam al-Anbiya alayhi salam without mentioning his miraculous barakah or blessing. Got some lines here, so I didn't have time to translate myself, from the fourth daftar of Masnavi. It's been narrated from Anas, son of Malik, that a certain person became his guest. That person related, after the meal, Anas saw the table napkin was yellow, dirty and stained. He said to the servant, "Throw it straight into the oven." So the intelligent maid threw it into the oven, which was burning full of fire. All the guests were astounded. They expected to see smoke come up from it. After a short while, she took it from the oven, clean and white and purged of all that dirt. Those present said, "O venerable companion of the Prophet, how didn't it burn? How did that too become clean?" He replied, "Because the Mustafa, the chosen one, often rubbed his hands and lips on this napkin." O heart afraid of the fire and torment of hell, draw close to such a hand and a lip as that. Since that barakah, in other words, that the barakah bestowed such honour upon a lifeless object, what will it reveal to the soul of those who love him? Inasmuch as he made the clothes of the Kaaba the Qibla, so you, soul, should be like the dust of holy men in your holy war against the ego. Afterwards they said to the girl, "Won't you tell us how you feel about this? Why did you throw it so quickly into the oven when told to?" We suppose others knew the secret, but why did you put such a precious napkin into the fire? She answered, "I have confidence in the generous ones. I don't despair at their bounty. Never mind a piece of cloth. If he told me myself to go without regret into the very heart of the fire, I have such confidence in him, I'd throw myself in. I have great hope of those who are devoted to God. I throw myself, not just this napkin, because of my trust in every generous one who knows about the mysteries." The brother, apply yourself to this elixir. The faith of a man must be not less than the faith of a woman. This is not talking about gender, this is talking about the ones who are real, sincere and strong in their path. We don't say, in this case, the women, a woman can be a man. In that sense, she's determined, she's strong in the path, so that she has as good a chance and principle of becoming one of the awliya of Allah, of making spiritual progress as a man, and who could say not more. The heart of a man is less than a woman is the heart that's less in worth than the belly. So, having trust, having tasdeeq and believing in the high rank of the awliya, let alone the prophets, is part of our faith. Again, Maulana describes how the pebbles glorified God while in the Prophet's blessed hand. Some people say, as you may know, that the miracle was not about the pebbles glorifying. They say everything glorifies Allah all the time anyway. The miracle is that people not able to hear these things were unable to hear them, including, let's see, who? There were some pebbles in the hand of Abu Jahl. Ahmed, he said, tell me quickly, what is this? If you're really God's messenger, what's this hidden in my hand, my fist? Speak, since you claim the knowledge of the mysteries of heaven. He said, how do you wish me to do that? Shall I say what these things are? Or shall I declare that I am truthful, I am correct? Abu Jahl said, this second thing is more extraordinary. Yes, said the Prophet, God has more power than that. Without delay, from the middle of his closed fist, every pebble began to pronounce the Shahada, profession of faith, Muhammad Rasul. Each said, there is no God. Each said, except God. Each threaded the pearl of Ahmad. Muhammad is the messenger of God. When Abu Jahl heard this from the pebbles in his anger, he dashed the pebbles to the ground. He talks elsewhere about obedience of believe that, inshallah. Another of Maulana's long poems, I'm just going to read you 2 stanzas from this, which he mentions some of the Anbiya. نام رسید زان جهان بهر مواجهت برم عزم رجوع می کنم رخت به چرخ می برم گفت که ارجعی شنو باز به شهر خویش رو گفتم تا بیامدم دل شده و مسافرم آن چمن شکرستان هیچ نرفت از دلم من به درون واصلم من به حظیره حاضرم چون به سباق تیر سبار تیر تا تو اوج هوا مخوف شد بسته شدن راه من زان که به تن کبوترم گفت از این تو غم مخور ای من شادمان بپر زان که رفیق امن شد جان کبوتر حرم هر که به راه حفظ ما دارد در ذهن قبا در بحر و بحر گرد باشد راد و محترم نوح میان دشمنان بود 1000 سال خوش اسم تماش بود به کف غالب بود لاجرم چند هزار همچو او بنده خاص تا خو هر دم می رسیدشان با خفیر از مدرم گفت کلیم زاب من غم نخورم که من درم گفت خلیل ز آتشش غم نخورم که من زرم گفت مسیح مرده را زنده کنم به نام او اکمه را به سر دهم جان به طب ننگرم گفت محمد امین من به اشارت مبین بر قمر افلاک زنم که از قمران من اکبرم صورت را برون کنم پیش شهان شهی روم که از تف او منورم و از کف او مصورم چون برم براده را هیچ مگو که نیست شد در صحب روح حاضرم گرد تو مسترم نام خوشم در این جهان باشد چون تبا وزان بوی خوشش ابر فشان زان که به جان معنبرم ساکن گلشن چمین عشق خوشان همچو من بار هم از چه و رسن زان که برون چنبرم بس کن بحث این سخن در چلجی بازگو گرچه پیش مستمع دارد هر سخن در رو A letter has come for me from that world, that I should return. I'm setting off for home. I'm migrating heavenwards. He said, return. He said, irji'i. There's a summon to the soul. Here, go back to your own town. I said, until I reach it, I'm a traveller restless-hearted. That meadow, that sugarcane plantation never left my heart. Remember something from being in paradise before. Inwardly I'm there already, I'm present in the fold. When the upper air was filled with menace by wild birds of prey, my way was barred for bodily, I'm a mere pigeon. He said, grieve not for that. Fly joyfully in safety. The pigeons enjoy sanctuary within the sacred mosque. Don't kill anything when you're within the haram, and even a pigeon. Whoever keeps in his hair collar hem my letter of safe conduct would be noble and respected, whether he goes by land or sea. Noah, Nuh alayhi salam, was happy for 1,000 years amidst enemies. He was safe. He enjoyed our protection and inevitably he prevailed. Through divine help. In Imam van Tozir, he has to ask for the help. Truly I've been in danger overcome, so help. Thousands like him, chosen servants of pure character, each moment would receive friends and guardians from my door. Prophets in the Anbiya have the help of the Malaika, and they have their loyal followers to help them. He who spoke with God, Al-Kalim, Musa alayhi salam, I don't fear water, for I am a pearl. The friend of God, the Khalil, Ibrahim alayhi salam, said, I don't fear his fire, Nimrod's fire, I am gold. The Messiah said, Isa alayhi salam, in his name I bring the dead back to life, I give sight to the blind without course to medicine. Muhammad, the greatest, salatu wasalam, said, with a single helping gesture I strike the moon in the sky. I am more moon-like than any moon. Shedding my outer form I go before the King of Kings, by whose life I am illumined, by whose hands I was shaped. This is talking to Mullah, he's remembering Mullah, saying, I got my summons to go back to go get to the next world. When I leave, O my brother, never say he is no more. I am there in the ranks of spirits, though I be concealed from you. May my good name stay in this world, wafting like the east wind, its sweet scent scattering ambergris, for in my soul I'm amber tinged. Here we are talking about him after 700 years, 800 years. The dweller in garden and meadow with the happy ones like me, I rescue from the well and rope, for I am outside the hoop. Not quite sure about this, but somewhat enigmatic. Finish it there and say no more on this, but tell about this theme in another verse, another stanza. Though to him who listens, every discussion has two sides. So this is now he's moving on from talking about himself to giving advice to others. Since it's from heaven that crowns and thrones and greatness come, my heart is best for you to travel, to move house to heaven. Look, everyone in the sea found their own pearls in the foam. You're standing amidst the ebb and flow. Whose company are you keeping? Come on, don't call the dead cow a lion, don't hang your head, though that cow may bellow thanks to the Samaritan's sorcery. Don't think all these inanimate things are around you, this is where you're supposed to be. These things are all perishing. And there's this golden calf, it's just a piece of magic. It won't be around for long. Even though Nimrod may fly upwards on the wings of a vulture, he will soon fall, for he has not the power of Ja'far's wings. Say that Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, when he was martyred at the Battle of Mu'tah, that some of his fellow warriors saw him being carried up into the sky, wings, for which reason he is sometimes known as Ja'far al-Tayyar. By employing its guile, a pigeon may go hunting for partridges. How could it become a white hawk and escape from pigeonhood? None but God gives life, it is He who bestows intelligence, though the craft of other hand can fashion out of form. father or more likely uncle of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, whose profession was making idols. Do not bother with a body which deception keeps half happy. If you bow your head before God in that moment, you'll gain everything. Giving vinegar, you'll get sugar. Giving black agate, you'll get pearls. Giving collyrium, you'll receive eyesight. That's the most happy bargain. Generous giving, graciousness, prostration like water in the stream, forsaking passions and desires, such are the secrets of prophethood. And then there's next is a sort of beautiful evocation of what would be like coming into paradise and seeing all these beautiful things. I think we'll have to leave it there and move on. The friends of God, the awliya Allah, the prophets, alayhi salam, manifest the highest degree of human perfection. It's the other prophets gain their light from the seal of the prophets, alayhi salatu wassalam, as do those elevated souls who are referred to in the Quran as awliya Allah, friends, helpers and protégés. These are the people on whom the Creator has bestowed noble character, oneness of purpose and a special degree, in many cases a ma'rifah, direct, unmediated knowledge of Him, understanding of what makes the world, the universe work. They've also been granted a special nur or light, as Maulana Jalaluddin says in Masnavi. Through God's perfect power, the frames of spiritual men gain the strength to bear a light that's beyond description. So the seal of the prophets related these words from the eternal King. I can't be contained in heavens or in space, not in the loftiest minds or souls, but I abide like a guest in the heart of the believer, without qualification, definition, or description. Probably know this Hadith Qudsi, neither my heavens nor my earth contain me, but the heart of my believing servant contains me. Concerning the central position of the awliya in the scheme of creation, Maulana says in the Masnavi, the heavens are the slave of the saint's moon. The east and the west beg him for their bread. On his decree is written, but for you. In other words, he gets his authority from the special position of seal of the prophets. He grants and distributes all things. But for him the heavens would not revolve, nor would they be the place of light, the standing place of the angels. But for him the oceans would not have received majesty, the fish and the imperial pearls. But for him the world will not contain treasures below or jasmine above. So although the awliya inhabit this world, they are not of it, such is their elevated status. According to one of the discourses, when a touch of ecstasy or a flash of grace from that other world manifests itself to you, at that moment you're completely indifferent to above and below, to lordly rank or to leadership, indifferent even to yourself, which is the closest thing of all to you. How then could the saints who are minds and sources of that light and that ecstasy be tied to above or below? Their glory is in God, and He is independent of above and below. Above and below are for those of us who are attached to physical existence. The overriding importance, moving on from now to a special category of these awliya, the spiritual guide. The overriding importance of the Sufi master, the spiritual guide for Rumi's understanding of Sufism, is evident in the fact he's represented by a character in at least 9 of the dozen or so major narratives in Book 1, which I hope we can return tomorrow. While his role and characteristics are frequently discussed in his discourses and commentaries, this figure is perhaps represented most clearly by the divine healer in the first story we get to. In other stories he's represented by religious and political leaders such as prophets, saints and caliphs, and even in some cases by animals. Among the many discourses there's a lengthy one urging the reader to choose a Sufi master as guide and to follow him wholeheartedly and unconditionally. In many passages